Hi, I hit Grandmaster after a couple weeks of playing Rivals, and it is easy. If you're hard stuck plat, gold, or anything else below, you're going to want to listen to what I have to say, because I see so many people making fundamental mistakes which I'm going to go through. Because this game is built on fundamentals. This isn't Valorant or CSGO where you can just sit in aim labs for 6 hours and become better than everyone else. Actually, as you'll climb, you'll realize that aim hardly matters. In diamond lobbies and everything else above, Hela and Hawkeye are banned almost permanently. So two of the heavy hitters when it comes to aim are simply not in the game. That's why fundamentals matter so much. The one game everyone compares Rivals to is Overwatch, and they're right to do so. It's a hero shooter with several abilities which look and function exactly like Overwatch abilities. And in Overwatch, when a new character comes out, everyone who is good at the game can instantly pick them up and play them to a top tier level. But why can they do this? They haven't seen the character before, nor any of the abilities. It's because they understand the core gameplay fundamentals which apply to every character in the game. I would even go as far as to say that Rivals and Overwatch are 70% game sense and 30% mechanics. As the majority of the roster, aim isn't really even a factor. It's more about positioning, timing, and ability usage to land you kills and win team fights. So listen to what I have to say. Before I get into this, I stream almost every single day on Twitch, so if you have any more questions or simply want to watch me play, then drop by. I also do 10 push-ups per follower, so it'll be worth your time, trust me. Anyway, onto the tips. The first and arguably most important thing is communication. If you want to climb, you have to speak and communicate, otherwise you're just making your life much harder. If you look at Grandmaster or Eternity lobbies, why do you think everyone speaks? Is it because they suddenly feel obligated to do so? No. It's because they spoke the whole time and climbed by doing so. It's extremely rare to find someone who's made it to the top of the top completely silently. Of course, it's still possible to win without talking, but you're just making your life much harder. And you don't need to be a social butterfly when talking either. You just need to make small basic comms to call out regroups, pushes, plays you're going to make, or enemies you're focusing, and that's enough to make a huge difference. Little comms like this can prevent you from stacking support ults, for example, which can make a big difference between winning or losing a match. If you're playing a dive character, for example, like Black Panther, and communicate when you're going in, then your team can play accordingly and potentially save you if you mess up or help you secure kills. Trust me when I say this, communication is so important if you want to climb fast, because at the end of the day, it's a team-based game. If you watch me play, or watch many people in high ranks, you'll just see them yap constantly. I sit there basically on open mic, just talking the entire time to my team. And if you win a game, everyone loves me for it. So trust me, talk more. The next key aspect is to learn every character. No, you don't need to be proficient with literally every single character in the game. I think at this stage, no one is, nor will they ever really be good at every character. But you need to learn what every character does. In lower ranks, I see so many people not understand character abilities and they just play off vibes. While one-tricking can work to a degree, it isn't a very safe method to climb because you can't really counterplay enemies if you don't know what they do. I recommend you take the time to play a couple quick play matches as every single character, just to the point where you at least know what they do and how their playstyle is. This will really help your confidence if you need to flex on off-roll as well. I can guarantee that there isn't a single high-rank player who still doesn't know what half the roster does, so if you don't know what they do, get to learning ASAP. Your ability to make counterplays will skyrocket, trust me. This ties to my next point, which is that you need to be able to flex. There will be hero bans in high ranks, and if you've been relying on OP characters like Hela and Hawkeye to climb, then you're going to be in trouble when they're banned every single match. I would recommend you get to a point where you're solid with at least 2 tanks, 2 supports, and a couple DPS characters, to make sure that you aren't sat there struggling to pick someone after the hero ban phase is over. Also, you know Team Captain? That Wolverine player who's blowing up right now, he's like top 100. If you watch his streams, you'll notice he has to off-roll onto tank all the time, and he plays well while doing so. I myself started climbing mainly playing Moon Knight and Namor, but of course you'll get games where your entire team wants to pick DPS, and I learned that I really enjoy playing Strange, and he's both easy and extremely effective when it comes to carrying matches. Actually, if you didn't already know, tank is by far the most crucial role in the game. Of course you aren't going to win if your healers aren't healing or if your DPS can't get a kill, but as a tank you enable your team to make plays, and this is through a magical thing called taking space. So, I grew my Twitch stream by playing Valorant mainly, and I've realized that all these Valorant players have no clue what taking space even is. In short, it's the map control that you have and concede as you take a team fight. Typically, the more space you have, the easier it is for your DPS players to take angles and get kills, and it becomes significantly easier for your healers to heal. Think about it, if there's a Black Panther and Venom jumping your backline every fight, your only play is to move back and concede some space to help your team survive. In this situation, the Venom and Panther have made a ton of space for their team to push into and subsequently use to kill you while you're distracted. As a tank player, you need to understand when to give space and when not to. If the enemy Lunar Snow is ulting, for example, there's no point of pushing hard or over-engaging as you know the enemies are effectively unkillable. In this situation, you move back, giving space, and wait for the inevitable moment where one of the enemies forgets that the ultimate does run out and overextends into your team, thus giving you a free kill and moving the fight into your favor. This give and take of space is essential to understand if you want to climb, and the best way to learn it is by watching good players. Pay attention to where they play, why they play there, and try to implement it into your own gameplay. I really do mean this. The best way to get better at hero shooters like this and Overwatch is to watch good players play. Like, you'll learn it all through osmosis, trust me. Another fundamental link to space making is positioning. If your team is dead, do not go in. Just wait. If you go in and die one by one, you're just staggering and throwing. And let me tell you, people in low ranks do nothing but stagger. The only time you're allowed to do this is if you're in overtime and need to get back to the point as soon as possible, or if you think that the fight might be winnable. Look at this gameplay in the background, for example. This is a low Grandmaster lobby, and the tanks did nothing but mindlessly stagger at us and not peel for their supports. Do not be like them. And remember, this also works the other way around too. If you're in a team fight and your team is clearly losing or dying, then just die too. There's no point in trying to survive if 4 to 5 of your team are already dead. Again, unless it's overtime, do not stagger yourself and let yourself just die so that you respawn as a team and can push together. Positioning generally also really depends on what you're playing and what the enemies are playing. As dive and melee characters, for example, take your time. Don't just sit in the front of your team and try to farm damage, and instead take off angles. This is where you sit adjacent to the team fight and wait for the right moment to engage. This gives you the element of surprise and lets you bide time while the enemies use their cooldowns on your tanks. Doing this is extremely important for a large portion of the hero roster, and mere patience can be the difference between getting game-winning kills or not. As most tanks, of course you want to be at the front of your team to soak damage and cooldowns, but something that most low-ranked tank players don't understand is how to peel. This means moving back to help your supports with the Black Panther or Iron Fist in your backline. You don't even need to be the one to get the kill, but even being there can be enough to force a flanker to disengage because they know they can't win a 2 versus 1, and this gives your team room to breathe in the backline and then heal you much easier. And as a support, you want to be in the back of your team, near one of your DPS players ideally. If you have a Punisher or a Namor, be near them for protection and play safe, because if you overextend and die, then your team is guaranteed to do the same. Supports like Luna and Mantis are also extremely powerful because of how fast they can build their ults and the fight winning potential that their ults have, so survival is key. The more you live, the more healing you can do, and the more ultimates you can farm, and the more fights you'll win. It is really that simple. And on the topic of farming support ults, stop looking at the leaderboards. So many low rank players think they're carrying because they have 20 million damage, when in reality, getting loads of damage with no kills does nothing but feed enemy support ults. If you're on Squirrel Girl, Punisher, Moon Knight, and you're laying into the enemy tanks but not actually getting any kills, then you're almost throwing. Yes, it's good to pressure tanks and force them back to prevent them from just walking over your team, but the higher you'll climb, the more you'll realize that focusing supports and squishy characters is really what matters. A tank can't win alone, so if you kill the supports or take out a DPS, it's extremely beneficial. If you have a Wolverine player, for example, with 5k damage and 20 kills, and you have 20k damage and 10 kills, the Wolverine player is the player doing more. Focus kills, focus squishies, and stop letting the damage number decide who's doing what. Look, I was even guilty of doing this before. I would shoot tanks, farm my ultimate, and feel like I was doing a lot, but then I realized that pressuring supports resulted in way more fight wins, especially in lower ranks where the enemy team won't turn around to peel for their healers. Now, the final key aspect is just to be patient. Don't get tilted, and if you do, just stop playing. The harder you tilt, the more you feed and die, trust me. And look, you'll run through some insanely incompetent teammates, but it's what's to be expected. While writing this script, I was watching Zebra, who's a top tier player and is currently doing an unranked to GM, and I saw him lose 3 games in gold. How is it that he, an Eternity player, lost 3 games in gold? Because some games just aren't winnable. In situations like this, just keep trying and still do everything in your power to win. Focus on your own gameplay and what you could have done differently. And if you're still losing regardless of everything, just give it time. If you're meant to climb, you will. Elo hell just isn't a thing. If it was a thing, good players wouldn't ever be able to climb to the ranks they're at now. If you play well and play consistently, then the law of averages will see it that you climb rank. Look, I steamrolled my way through every rank up to Diamond and hit a wall where I would just win and lose over and over. But I knew that my gameplay was fine and I knew that I was improving. I kept watching good players, I kept working on my own ability to make plays and not die, and it's worked out. And remember, this isn't Valorant. In that game, you make a minor mistake and you're just dead. In this game, you have a team to bail you out, and as long as you learn from your mistakes, you will climb. I would recommend that you find yourself a duo, but honestly, going solo works too. I personally made the final part of my climb to GM solo, and I believe that I would be able to do it all again because of my ability to communicate, position, and flex. Anyway, those are the basics. Of course, at higher ranks, mechanics matter a lot too, but those you'll just pick up in time as you play the game. If you want more advice or VOD reviews on your matches, then drop by my Twitch stream and I'll be happy to help. Drop a like, drop a comment for the algorithm, and I'll see you later. Bye bye!